Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for today's video. We're glad you're back, and today we're going to share with you some really fun stuff, aren't we?
Right. So this year...
You sound so convinced. Right. My name is Joel.
I'm Jenna.
And we are Wandering Arrows, but today we're not wandering. Today we're talking important RV upgrades.
Yeah, so this year we bought a 2016 Winnebago Vista Class A bunkhouse.
Yeah, and it was not something that we knew anything about, so we had a lot to learn. And in this video, we're going to share with you everything we learned and mainly talk about the upgrades that we made to the exterior, the suspension, the bones of this monster so that we could travel down the road safely and in the lap of luxury. I want to tell you real quick what we're going to be talking about in this video so you know to stick around and know what we're going to actually be showing you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you the installation of the Super Steer rear track bar that goes into the differential and then locks into the frame. It's really awesome. Then we're going to be talking about the Roadmaster steering stabilizer, and I'll show you how we installed that. It's a pretty easy install. Then I'll go into some more detail about the Sumo springs that we put on the RV. We did 2 on the front, 2 on the rear. You could do just front, just rear, but we chose to do both, and we'll talk about why. And then we'll talk about a few things up on top of the RV. We actually installed a WeBoost on this rig, and I put Max Flow vent covers on top of all of our vents so that we could keep them open as we roll down the road. So let's check out a few of these things, and let's start by jumping into the installation of the Super Steer track bar. All right, so once we'd laid everything out, unboxed and unpacked everything, made sure we had it all, we took a good look at the instructions, which were actually very simple. This is not a difficult thing to install or really understand. There's only 4 main pieces. There's the frame bracket, the pinch plate that goes on top of that bracket, attaching it to the frame, an assembly rod, and a differential bracket, which you simply install by removing a couple factory bolts from the differential. So that's where we started. We simply took a look at the differential, figured out which bolts we needed to remove, and removed those. Then we carefully put the differential bracket in place and bolted it on. Then we loosely assembled the pinch plate so that all the bolts were in the right spot when we got it on the frame and were ready to tighten it down, and slowly began to put it in the right spot. Then once we roughly had the pinch plate in the right spot, we got the rod assembly out and began to attach it to the differential bracket there with the supplied bolts and adjust the pinch plate as necessary so things were straight and aligned before attaching the rod to the pinch plate itself. You actually have the ability to fine-tune the length of that rod assembly so that it's exactly perfect for where your pinch plate ends up, and you'll have the opportunity to tighten down that adjustment at the end of the process. Then after we had double and triple checked to make sure everything was in the right spot and that everything was the way it should be according to the instructions, we went ahead and snugged down all the bolts. And that final step of tightening up the assembly rod in its final resting place. And that was the entire assembly. Pretty easy, right? I don't know if you can tell, but I'm at the RV storage unit right now, just checking on her, making sure she's okay. It's good to touch base with your RV when you're not inside traveling, because they get lonely after a while. But one of my favorite installations that we did was the Roadmaster steering stabilizer. This is a really cool piece of equipment. It cost around $500. There's a lot of different types of steering stabilizers out there. We went with Roadmaster just because of some independent research I did on my own. It's a brand that I really trusted and liked, and I think you'll find that the installation was really easy. So let's kick on over to that. So the first step is to actually remove the factory bolts that attach the leaf springs to the front axle, and we're going to put the bracket for the steering stabilizer on the bottom and then reattach those bolts. This actually makes things really easy because there's absolutely no drilling required for this installation. You're just using factory bolts for this side, and then in the middle, the supply brackets from Roadmaster. And now it's time to go ahead and attach Roadmaster's bracket to the tie rod with the U-bolts and provided nuts. You can do everything finger tight because you really don't know where your final location will be yet, so everything should just be on there loose enough to be able to adjust for your final location once it's all together. And now it's time to put the steering stabilizer itself into that bracket, again loosely fit, and then you'll be able to slide the steering stabilizer into place as you're attaching the other end to the bracket you just mounted on the passenger side. Then once you've double and triple checked that you followed the instructions, made sure everything is in the right position, you can go ahead and tighten down all the bolts so you're ready to do a little turning of the wheel and testing of your new stabilizer. Now, one thing I should note is that we took great care to make sure our tires were perfectly straight before installation, because that does matter. If you install it slightly off, it will pull your RV in either direction, which is definitely not good. We have checked all the clearances. We have gone under, turned the wheel, made sure that the steering stabilizer isn't touching anything. When it turns, that it goes both sides. We've straightened the wheels before installation, but now we're going to take it for a drive just to make sure that it's tracking straight, because the manufacturer suggests that if it's not tracking straight, if the stabilizer's pulling it, then you need to adjust it after the test drive. So we're going to head out for a test drive and see how it goes. And this portion of the video is brought to you by Dirty Wheels. If you drive your RV around all over the place but don't bother to wash it, you too can have dirty wheels. But seriously, I'm here at this dirty wheel to tell you a little bit about what's behind this wheel. In fact, it's behind every wheel on our RV now. There are sumo springs. And a lot of people either put them just on the front or just on the back, but we decided to put them on all four corners just to cover all our bases. And I would say it was definitely worth the upgrade, definitely worth the expense. These are really cool. They're not actual springs. They're just giant, highly dense foam spring looking things that attach right on your leaf springs and then to your frame on the other side. Now, because of how tight this was and just actually the timing of our installation, I didn't get to video it at the time of installation, but I can tell you that the front sumo springs, they're two pieces. They actually come apart, and they were actually installed very easily, no drilling. The back sumo springs are one piece, and they did require some drilling on the side of the frame. We were worried we might have to take off the wheels in order to do this, but we actually didn't have to take off any of the wheels to install these springs. It's a tight fit, but once you get behind the tire and up there in that area, you actually have quite a lot of room to work. So they were installed without taking the wheels off, and only the back required drilling, which the hardest part was actually getting the drill back behind the wheel. But we absolutely love these sumo springs. I heard a lot of people say to be worried because they stiffen up your ride, but what I did appreciate is the lack of body roll, the more control and stability that you feel with having these things on your rig. All right, I am very excited about this. Tonight we got the snap pads that we ordered in for the RV, and these were not easy to get. They were kind of sold out everywhere. Here's what they look like. They're just hardcore rubber. I don't know exactly what the term for that is. Feet that will fit on the bottom of our hydraulic jacks, and it'll help us when we're not on a concrete pad to not sink in, give me a little more lift and a little wider stance on the feet there. So we got one for all four corners, and we're just going to put the jacks down slowly, line them up, and they should pop right in. All right, now I've never done this before, but it seems to be a pretty straightforward operation. All we're gonna do is set this over the vent itself. The sides screw in to this part of the vent with a 3/16 inch drill, and then we're gonna mount these brackets that are right here on either side, and then it will hinge up on one side. So should be pretty easy. We're gonna give it a shot. I'll time lapse it so you can see how long it actually takes me.
All right, well, there you have it. In about 15 minutes, it seems like just about anybody could put in a Max Air vent cover. It was very easy. You can see I've got the detachable pins here on this side, and on the other side, I've got the actual washers installed so that you can take these pins out. You just roll it up, boom. You can see here it just simply installs with a bolt down the middle, 2 screws on each side for stabilization. There's nothing to really weatherproof because it's underneath the cover at all times, though I feel like I might want to put some caulking on the inside just for peace of mind, but pretty easy upgrade. Now I just got to do it 2 more times.
All right, so one of the final things that I want to show you in this video is the WeBoost antenna that we put on the RV. It actually increases our cell signal and was quite useful this summer. I didn't want to drill a hole in the top of my RV on the roof, so I decided to put mine on top of my ladder. I'll take you up and show it to you. Yeah, there it is. So it's mounted right here to the ladder. You can see it was pretty easy to just snake down. All the cables are zip tied and snake down the ladder like so. And then I was able to run it into a compartment on the side of the RV to avoid having to drill any holes. All right, so I'm right next to my back wheel. This is actually where I snaked the WeBoost to, all the way underneath, zip tied securely and safely. And we went into this compartment. It's the valves for the front black and gray tanks, and we mounted it right up in here. I took this panel off right here and sent it up here. I don't know if you can see it. There it is, mounted safely and securely. And that runs right into the wall, or inside the wall, that leads up to our television up in the RV. So we went just straight up through there, plugged it in inside a cabinet, and actually put the receiver right on the wall next to the TV. All right, so I know the lighting's bad in here. We're inside a dark storage unit, but I got the lights on in here. This is actually where the WeBoost antenna comes in. So that outside unit plugs into this, it runs up the wall and came out. You can see right here is our TV. So the antenna's right here, and it broadcasts this boosted signal to everyone here in kind of the living room kitchen area, and it really has worked well for us. You know, sometimes when we're not even traveling, I'll come and sit in the driver's seat, stare out the windshield as though I have someplace to go, and fantasize about the next time I get on the road. That's not true at all. Look who came to the storage unit with me. Yeah, my little storage unit buddy. She likes to look for anything she can underneath the RVs. I think by and large, we're very happy with are you happy with the ride?
You can definitely tell a difference. I can say that from someone who makes trips frequently from the back to the front, gets people food, you know, all the things, that you can tell a big difference.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where you'll tell the biggest difference in some of these is when you're near the rear axle out in the back of the RV, which I never get to experience because I'm always holding the steering wheel. But for sure, I think at the end of the day, you know, we spent several $1,000s on these RV upgrades, depending on, you know, what models and things. You could go anywhere $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on things like this, doing it yourself, more if you're paying somebody. But on an RV that cost as much as these Class A's do, it's a small percentage investment in the overall machine, and therefore, if you're going to keep it for a little while, it's probably worth it. And we really are happy we did them.
So yeah, those are the upgrades that we made to our Class A.
And big thanks to my dad, who would not appear on camera other than his forearms. That's the way he likes it, but we wouldn't have been able to do all these things by ourselves. He did pretty much all the work and let me hold that camera so we could share it with you guys.
Yeah, so we're glad you're here. Don't forget that every Saturday we post a new video, so be sure to subscribe below so you don't miss out.
Yeah, make sure you're coming back here and leave us a thumbs up if you like the content. It lets us know what you're into so that we can post more content like that. And we're just really appreciative that you're on this journey with us, because we want to share our adventures with you, and we want to encourage those of you that are out there maybe ready to get something started, on the edge of something. Maybe we'll give you a little push off the cliff. So until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Saturday.